and sketchy pills, but my favourite ones are the ones that kill quickly. When I go when my loved ones miss me, well the answer's no. Chuck my corpse in a big main road, turn my head to a powdered skull, let rain pour, turn that to mulch, and that's the last scene of the Patrick Show.
As if glue gone paste and my face is plastic, having a gangbang to Jackson 5. Right, I'm a ratchet guy, lost my wife when I pranked goodbye. No, don't talk to me unless it's an emergency. I gotta take a number 3. That's a piss and a shit and a wank in a tree.
I said, hello there, can I fill your hole? She took one look and she told me no. I got a wife at home and she hates me. I sleep outside cause she makes me. Big bowl of the cocaine, that's my breakfast. I tried crack once, I just wanted to test it and I'm hooked now. I can marry my pipe, my wife wouldn't care, she just wants me to die. It's party time, get your drugs out. If you wanna make love, get your muffs out. It's party time, get your drugs out. Do you wanna make love to a sad old man? It's party time, get your drugs out. If you wanna make love, get your muffs out. It's party time, get your drugs out. Do you wanna make love to a sad old man?
And a hip, a hip, I dip my dick in the salsa dip on a Taco Tuesday. Get a smack on your boob legs. Yes. Feel free to say no. Bald bean and full of beans. I got a Yamaha keyboard drum machine, metallic a patch on my dungarees. I said, girl, can I get your number, please?
Hang myself in the neighbour's garden. When he comes back, that's a nice surprise. Let the darkness just take your soul. Listen up, child, close your eyes. Just pull it out, don't cut me hair. Take my face, stub a cig right there. I'm a dirty, wretched man. Call me granddad, cause I fucked your nan.
What's the worth? Fuck the universe till it hurts. I'm not used to these kinds of mental health issues. I just wanna live in a church and find peace upon me blame. Jesus, please just stop me pain. I know you think that this is a game, but it's not. Now watch me walk away.
I'm a love machine, I don't know when to stop. I got a mouse right there that can make me cock. Pink and red with a mighty blues. In the club too, stepping with my black school shoes. Lunch and meat in my bootcut jeans. Chuck it on bread with a bit of knob cheese. Taste it, would you like your bite? Give the clap to your wife and a wave goodnight. It's party time, get your drugs out. If you wanna make love, get your muffs out. It's party time, get your drugs out. Do you wanna make love to a sad old man? It's party time, get your drugs out. If you wanna make love, get your muffs out. It's party time, get your drugs out. Do you wanna make love to a sad old man? Do you wanna make love to a sad old man?
Ain't nobody talking when I'm talking, fellas, so shut the fuck up.
The dog is belly up.
Pile driving headlock, got you in the gridlock. Catch me in the back lot, I can make the map right. Backdrop, hip toss, abdominal stretch. Now they wondering who we bombing on next. Yes.
The dog is belly up.
To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women. That is good.
Oh, Stephen, there's one more thing I have to mention.
What is it?
I love you.
The dog is belly up.
If they don't give me proper credit, I just walk away.
Patos locos forever.
Forever!
Forever.
Full disclosure, news and commentary number 180 and 181, 180 and 181. Double size full. Look at. So, in anticipation of Hurricane Ian, which is currently happening and raging, I'm still going to have to go to work in a couple of hours. In fact, because they're apparently opposing some kind of curfew in the area of 9 o'clock at night, which is when I'm supposed to be at work, and they want to make sure the crew before me can leave, I need to get there early. So as long as I'm at work during curfew, it's fine. And as long as those folks can get away from work by 9, they're fine. It's crazy. But I've been acquiring, shamelessly using the children, a number of treats from the ice cream truck whenever it came by. And so I have a nice supply of top flight confectionery treats. That's a great word, isn't it? Confectionery treats.
I came
which is something you don't buy confectionery treats from the store. You buy them from an ice cream motherfucking truck. Am I right? But this one is one of my favorites, so my kids made sure they stocked up on it. It's the watermelon bomb pop with the candy seeds, and it's awfully penisy. Well, you had to become a meme sometime.
I came!
Welcome to Full Disclosure. Is this going to live up to hype? Of course. I am currently working on... Man. For those who want to know, by the way, that music video that opened, obviously that rock rolling downhill, that's either something that interests you or it is something that does not. I don't know how you could not be interested in it. I find it amazing, especially when it broke the tree. I just thought that was one of the coolest things, and I wanted to share it with you. The video is from guys called the Northern Boys, and that thing just kicked me in the ass about an hour ago, and I thought, I want to share that with you too. Hopefully it won't get copyrighted, but it's whatever. We got a lot to cover. I want to open with the news about Dan Masters dying, getting struck by a car, apparently in El Salvador or something like that. He didn't get to make his flight because of Hurricane Ian, because, you know, it's raging in the Gulf of Mexico and stuff like that. And then he was struck by a car and killed. And I found out because a bunch of people told me, which is very nice that people want me to be in the know, but Larry called me and we talked about it for quite a long time this morning. You know, Dan Masters was one of those guys that really drove me crazy when he would just call into the podcast. But he was always just, he was right in the thick of this wrestling thing at all times. And just an absolute fucking madman. I can only speak from my perspective, and just like with the Jimmy Rave thing, I'll speak it from my perspective and I'll say it how I saw it. Just a guy who really was in the sort of rock and roll aspects of the wrestling lifestyle that has gone away for the most part, and he was sort of throwback in that way. And he loved being around hot chicks, and he loved being around God knows what else, and really burned that candle, and met with a very ridiculous, in many ways, and unfortunate end. It still doesn't seem real. It almost inspires you to go, is it a work? Like the way that dumb wrestling people do. But it is true. And Dan Masters, man, what can I say? You fucking did the damn thing. And we're still living the life that very few people can claim that they did. So that's something to definitely look at as sort of like a coolness factor. I imagine Larry and I will go back at some of the times that he called in and had stuff to say, and where he and I would sort of spar on on the podcast. So, something else, man. Let's go through GWH real quick. So I wrote a thing on the 10 greatest comebacks in Georgia wrestling. Those 10, just in case people didn't read it or know, Brooklyn Creed, De La Vega, D. Byers, Gunnar Miller, Naja Small, Michael Stevens, Nick Halen, Sal Renaro, Slim J, and The Tank with Reverend Dan Wilson. So, am I currently working on something? Yes. I wrote that, and then I followed it up with that ridiculous fight between the Elite and CM Punk, which people don't know what to make of that, which means it was a success. And now I am writing the 7 deadly sins of Georgia wrestling and what those are, and see how many of those things that you have committed, witnessed, committed, etc. I think it will prove to be an interesting article. WrestleMerica up to 224. So that's a good thing. We had Richard Ordaz Jr. on Tipping Point. Very proud of that interview. And if you're somebody who wants to get your gates up, you know, there's lots of people who give shitty advice.
You should be quiet.
Or no duh advice.
You should be quiet.
But it's really learning from the people who are where you want to be is the best way to learn. And I would suggest listening to the interview with Ricardo Ordaz instead of listening to guys that are not succeeding as far as drawing in bigger crowds, and in fact are drawing in smaller crowds than ever.
You should be quiet.
Josh, Steve, that seems to make sense. It sure does. Let's hope people listen. Because I see wrestling people come up with dumb shit all the time. Bar Rescue, but it's about wrestling and it's hosted by Bob Evans. How many of you posted this bullshit? What is this? John Taffer ran successful bars and nightclubs. Gordon Ramsay, when he does this kind of thing, has run numerous successful restaurants and is a powerful brand. What the fuck has Bob Evans ever done? What promotion has he ever ran? What has he ever done except for just give some shitty advice that he himself couldn't follow?
You should be quiet.
Oh, wait. Last time I checked, he showed up at an SCI, went over his time, and went into business for himself. Fuck him. That's the guy you want to host your wrestling people. Your fucking taste is in your mouth. And the last place that your tongue has apparently been is in your own ass. You fucking don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And if you shared that fucking thing about Bob Evans hosting a fucking bar rescue style show about wrestling,
you should be quiet.
Fucking slap yourself and delete that bullshit. Might as well go over some other cool stuff. Boom. This picture from Talaferro, and he's put up a number like it, is super cool, and I super love him. I'm a big fan just from a stylistic point of view. But I do have a challenge for people who book Talaferro and for Talaferro himself, and I'm just going to call it out publicly. Where's the fucking heat? What heat does he get? Can we advance his career so he would be considered one of the best managers? Can we do that? Because right now he just seems to be a cool fucking thing that doesn't generate heat in and of itself and just serves the function of a manager without succeeding at the most important part of it. Brutal. But I'm going to keep going. I would say Tyreek, who was easily in contention and probably leading the charge for Manager of the Year through his own bullshit social media posts where he looks like a fucking simp and a crying baby and keeps fucking up and keeps putting up these things that just remind you how young and dumb he is fucking hurting himself in the wrestling business by being such a simp-tastic dumb shit on social media instead of what appears to be a man. The guy that I saw jump in for Joe Black and start swinging on that fan that headbutted Joe Black was a man. But the guy that I see simping for this fucking girl and acting like he's superior and then putting up this woman-hating shit and all the rest of it looks like a fucking little kid.
You should be quiet.
You could tell I'm fucking just saying what I want to say. Bloom, here's some other interesting shit. The war in deathmatch wrestling between ICW, GCW, who have now sort of mended this fence and are now showing mutual admiration, and then XPW, who's running in ICW's backyard. So now ICW is running shows directly against XPW, not only in their backyard of LA, but every show that they're doing in the Jersey area, ICW is going to do a show nearby. It's fucking crazy. And November 12th, ICW is doing a huge show. XPW is doing a freaking tournament, deathmatch tournament, and GCW has a huge show on November 12th. And I'm going to find a way to see all three of those fucking things. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Um, man. Still Here 4. I love this graphic. It is my favorite graphic promoting any match. I think it's more successful than the posters for Still Here 4. This thing with Chip and Kyle. I think that this graphic successfully encompasses a vision for the event, for the match. That's one thing that I've noticed. The quality of posters and flyers and stuff overall for every league has gone way up. There's no doubt about it. There are no longer any rudimentary shitty ones. However, there are very few that convey the vision for an event. I think that's next level stuff. And we need to go for it. We need to have show posters that are as good as this individual one is for Chip and Kyle. You see what I'm saying? Still Here 4. It's coming up very soon. A lot of expectations riding on that show. And they seem to be getting nervous about it because now they're bringing in Buff Bagwell and trying to get Diamond Page, and they have Teddy Long. I think that's cool for their fans, and their fans will appreciate it. Me, from the outsider perspective, I fucking hate it. Teddy Long, to me, is not interesting. That's just my general take. I mean, everybody brings him in. Do you? But, like, Teddy Long, right? One thing I prided myself at PCW is when everybody else brought in somebody, Luke Gallows, I refused to.
You're right.
Or, you know, they would bring in Cody Hall so they could have Scott Hall show up at their show. And we would have refused to do it. I didn't want to be a follower. That seems like it's gone by the wayside. I think that's a cost of peacetime. And we're indefinitely in a peacetime. And that's a good thing in a lot of ways, but the bad part is a lot of people sort of copy each other's shitty ideas instead of defiantly, like, they did it, so we're not going to do it. There's something really great about that instinct of being original, and I don't see a lot of that anymore. Just saying. This thing about the War Games matches. It is so good. Congratulations to Wildside/Anarchy for taking first and third, number 1 and number 3 in the top 5 indie War Games ever. Though I will claim that at least number 5 on the list should be the Revolutionary War Games that PCW did between Team Chip Day, headed by Jeff G. Bailey, against Rachel and all of the ex-PCW champions on the other team. Pretty cool stuff. Where Rachel bled, Jeff bled.
I came!
In any case, that's a great honor. I thought Ace wrote a number of cool things about it as well. Okay. Let me make sure I cover my bases before we go to the commentary. So Tipping Point, it was cool. Georgia's stars abound on PWI 500 list. Happy birthday to AC Mack, by the way, who's number 25. I asked Larry, that's why this thing went up on Georgia Wrestling History. I had proposed to Larry that AC Mack landed the highest position of a Georgia wrestler who is not currently with a large organization. I think that's right. And people want to dispute, or they want to take, there's no middle ground because it's wrestling. People either take excessive pride and credit for something they had nothing to do with. You know who I'm talking about.
You should be quiet.
As far as this list goes. Or they downplay it way too much. Or they're just jealous, or they just go, oh, it doesn't fucking matter, it's a kayfabe list. Of course it is.
You should be quiet.
But it's also an indication of recognition of your peers, and you best believe that everybody who's ever gotten number 1 has been very proud of that fact. And rightfully so. Mm. Southern Fried Chaos sounded like a fantastic show. They appear to have a vision going forward. Back in the groove. Rob Rod is on a hot streak. Southern Violence and Wrestling. 120. And then to their credit, when they had to end the show early, they did so and still paid everybody and all of that. I think that deserves mentioning, of course. And they had to cancel the show because of the storms this weekend. Deep South Wrestling, when I declared them the Kingdom of South Georgia, I love being right.
You were right.
I know. How brilliant do I look now? I love it. The Mucha Lucha report was super impressive. They drew 1,000 again. Probably had a gate in the tens of thousands of dollars, if not $100,000. Amazing. The Southern States Pro Show in Temple. I gotta speak on this. I'll get them mad, but it's whatever, because it's a disturbing trend. We have coverage like we have never had. And Rob Rod, as much as I critique him, and I critique him all the time, and he listens to all the critiques. He's the guy who's really spearheading it. He's covering the most shows. Duke is there and doing a great job. Jabari, when he goes to shows, he always files reports that are fucking great. It's great when Scott Hensley chips in. And of course, Larry is the gold standard. Jeff, when he goes to deathmatch shows, tells you about them. And then I, on rare occasion, when I get to a pro wrestling show, will tell you about it. But it's Rob Rod who's doing the bulk of this work. And he goes to shows up and down as far as quality goes. Like, he covers the gambit. Shows that would have never got coverage before now get coverage. And certain shows, Southern States among them, get double covered or even triple covered, which is great. Different perspectives is wonderful. And I'm remiss to forget about Hancock and Charles, who report on the stuff in the West Georgia, or in the East Georgia scene. Like IWE, Viral, etc. But this thing of a guy can't say one line, making it like, telling you something that they've heard, or making a guess based on information that they have without people getting fucking butthurt. And I gotta say how Bush League it makes the people complaining look. Especially when he's right. Right? When he said, I'm not so sure they're gonna run a show in Temple in October, Murder and Josh got really mad about it. But guess what? They're not running a show in Temple in October. So what does that mean? We gotta fucking... This thing, and Larry's had to put up with it decades. I've had to put up with it ever since I've publicly spoken about stuff. I get it. Nobody likes to get criticized. But, folks, what do you want? Part of being in the news cycle and getting publicity is occasionally negative things being said. Certainly, PCW caught its fair share of stray shots over the years. And what I didn't do was publicly whine about it. Never did. You can look back. I never did. Nor did I go the route of just say nice things to get along. The fact that Nick and Myron, especially Nick, would feel empowered to go up to people who are doing good work and tell them, don't say anything critical or you won't be in with the guys. Let's be fucking honest. Are Nick and Myron down? Are they really a part of the scene? Or are they the kids trying to get in with the cool kids by paying for the meals, buying the rounds, and then just hanging around and being happy just hanging around instead of really being in? They're not wrestling people. And the reason they are not wrestling people, but most people would consider that Larry is, in spite of never taking a bump, which used to be the lamest critique he ever got, was because Larry is fucking real. And people say that they want real all the time, unless it negatively affects them in any way, shape, or form. Well, we need to fucking grow up. And you can get mad about this all you want. You want coverage and you want people giving honest assessment of matches. Otherwise, let's just do this. Let's just list who beat who and not have anything negative to say and see where that gets us. Where that gets us is a shitty, boring report. And it's how Rob Rods used to be. When he used to give grades and everything got a B+ or fucking higher. And I would fucking rail against that shit. That is of no use to anybody. And Southern Honor may love having Rob Rod write the reports because he will tend to kiss their ass more than Larry will. But if they're being honest with themselves, you want the Larry report when you can get it. Now, Rob Rod is changing that, and that's to his credit. And his videos are much more entertaining and interesting than they used to be. But nonetheless, the guys who got to be the gold standard because they are great. And greatness, I hate to paraphrase the fucking right wing and anything, but fuck your feelings. Like, I get that it hurts when you think something is factually inaccurate or whatever the fuck. But at the end of the day, all these guys that have said, we're fucking Larry and blah, 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 they all come and kiss his ass and need something from him later because he's established a real thing. And you know what? I'm an advocate for the real thing. And everybody giving the advice of don't ever say anything negative or you won't.
You should be quiet.
Won't be in. Let's be honest, is Duke Ingram in faster than almost anybody has ever gotten in? And the answer is yes. And that's because he's not afraid to fucking really tell you what he sees is going on, positive and negative. And when he compliments you, it fucking means something. And when he critiques you, it's something worth listening to. That goes for Larry, that goes for me, and it should go for Rob Rod too, and it should go for Jabari as well. Jabari got in with Georgia wrestling history because he spoke his fucking mind and he spoke his fucking truth. And people can agree with it or disagree with it, but I'll be damned if it didn't cause things to change. I remember once asking Larry, like, why do you do this? And he told me something that knocked me on my ass, which is like, I just want the things to get better. And they don't get better just by kissing their ass. End of that rant. God, let's be fucking real. And be happy with what we have. And fucking appreciate what we have. Southern Fried, my crazy article, all this other shit. Grap City Podcast. Successful first episode. And Rob Rod, to his credit, called the fuck in. And fucking talked to them. And, was like, I'll call in anytime you want. Which, it sounds like a threat. I make fun of Rob Rod. But yeah, Duke's Notebook. How great is this fucking shit? The Anarchy Show, Fire on the Mountain. I fucking watched that goddamn Nick Halen, Joe Black thing. That's match of the year so far until someone can tell me different. A GIPW is slipping down to 65. Get that shit back up to 100. Battle Slam. Larry backed off on saying it was absolute fuck up, but think about this. In that limited space in that building, PCW drew 85. Battle Slam is now down to 125. Which one is expending way more resources to get what they're getting? If I'm Battle Slam, I'm terrified. And if I'm Baron Black and I put the title on myself instead of on one of the more worthy guys and trusted them to carry things, I would be worried. It's one of the reasons that the boys running a thing tends to not go well, is because they can't resist the urge to think that they are the answer. And we see little examples of this all over the place. Commentary. I'm gonna fucking take a victory lap. we got Superstar Fan Fest coming up, and Kevin Nash bowed out recently, so they got Jake Roberts as their sort of headliner, as it were. But it does bring up, that whole debacle where they said Sting was going to be there, and I claimed from the beginning, like, Sting would never be there.
You were right.
Yeah, was right. And and then they said, we're never going to run another one. And I said, that's complete bullshit. It was a success, so they'll absolutely run another one.
You were right.
Remember that hook and elbow, collar and elbow bullshit? That fucking shyster motherfucker that had all these, like, local Georgia guys, and he had shirts for them, and he was going to put money in their pocket, and it was going to be great. And I said, this guy is completely full of shit, and he's ripped people off of money, and he ain't shit. And people were like, oh, you don't know, Steve, you got to give it a chance, and his thing. And, then they ran the thing WrestleMania week when it was in Tampa, along with the GCW that gets no respect. And I said, this thing isn't shit. And people were like, no, it's actually pretty good. And I said, fucking that guy is going to get out of the wrestling business. Well, guess what?
You were right.
Yeah. Cameron Cade, when people continue to let that guy back in, as it were, where no matter how many times he beat that girl, he would just come back and sort of slide into comments, and then slowly people would just sort of start liking him again and accepting him in. I mean, now he's been arrested for the 4th or 5th or 6th time, still with his creepily manicured eyebrows. And I mean, I've been saying that guy was worthless from before his first arrest.
You were right.
The Palmetto Creek Patrol guys, I've claimed constantly that they were worthless and creepy and doing it for all the wrong reasons. And the wrestlers who blindly fucking worship those guys were going to taint themselves. And that the effect that they would have would be less and less and less. And
you were right.
Back in the day, years ago, when I said, Priscilla Kelly, her career would not be hurt by the tampon spot. In fact, she would be in a major. Well,
you were right.
That was the very first full disclosure, by the way. When I tackled this idea about promoters constantly lying about their crowds as a normal thing, that it could be made better, and people said, no, it couldn't. Well, guess what?
You were right.
Yes. When I said face-to-face wasn't shit.
You were right.
When I said Control Your Narrative was full of their own shit and thought they were too big for everybody, and they used to DM me and argue, and we would go back and forth with the guys, and they would tell me, like, you ain't shit and you ain't going to be around, and I told them, I'm going to tell you the same thing that I fucking tell everybody else. I've been doing this shit from before you were doing the shit, and I'll do it long after you're doing your shit. Well, guess what?
You were right.
In fact, any of the motherfuckers who went toe-to-toe with me over the years, this is what happened.
Stop. The guy goes, oh, you're going to jump?
Oh my God!
Here we go.
Oh my God!
Is he dead? Oh, he's not.
And guess what?
You were right. You were right. You were right.
I try not to do this too often, but one thing I've learned through politics, looking at the bigger political scene, is when you accomplish things, you need to tout them. And so I'm touting. Not like that shitty app that the WWE sunk money into that didn't go anywhere.
Oh my God!
Remember that shit. Am I always right? I am not. And just like the thing that I said before about the people who are writing about this shit and people are getting butthurt and sensitive about all of it, I understand the instinct to feel that way. We have to allow ourselves to make mistakes, but we also have to recognize when things are shitty and be willing to sort of call that accordingly. A lot of people privately support me and back me up. And that's wonderful. But I often say it to people who are close to me. Sometimes it would be nice if people sort of publicly went, you know what, fucking Steve was right about this shit, and we need to make sure that it gets incorporated into the landscape. Instead of just being a thing where people privately do because they're scared. I know we're in cancel culture era. I know that I could get in trouble for this video or whatever the fuck, but I just refuse to be scared. I've been through too much over the years. And this notion, I just hate the notion of like, just say what you gotta say to sort of get along, and fuck that shit.
You should be quiet.
There are a lot of people who don't like me, but those people on some level respect me. Even the people who hate me the most, who have gone out of their way to very sneakily try to make my life that much worse. I look at where their lives are, and their lives suck. Whether it's because of marriages that didn't happen at all, and so they have to cling to the cross and all the rest of this bullshit that they do, or they have to just keep their head down. One thing I've never had to do is keep my fucking head down. It didn't matter if I fucking was in a cold fucking cell.
I came!
It didn't matter if I was financially on the fucking skids. It didn't matter if I have to work harder than any 2 or 3 people that you know currently. I mean, when the whole fucking, practically the whole state is shut down, and I'm still working 2 jobs a day. But at the end of it, I can truly look at myself and go, you're fighting the good fight, and you're fucking real, and my answer to things is to work harder and to be smarter and to still be cool at fucking 50. Whereas all these motherfuckers, who most of them are a little bit younger than me, they look like they're at death's door. It's because they've never fucking lived. And so to the wrestling people listening to this, especially the younger wrestlers, live, do your shit, and be fucking real. Be quick to fucking acknowledge mistakes and apologize. But take fucking chances and have something real to say instead of the kind of patting on the back that people are doing right now that I see often is like of the most puerile, lame variety. Do people respect you? I dare say no.
You should be quiet.
And it's because ultimately, do you respect yourself? I think we know the answer to that as well. Shit, I forgot to do the unboxing. Why do I always forget to do the unboxing? I don't know. But I'm going to open this. This is a great way to end, especially if it's something cool. Or maybe it's a joke that somebody's played on me. I don't know. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. Yeah!
I came!
In time for Halloween, motherfuckers! Talk about a guy who had a great PR person. Freddy Krueger. In any case, go out there and fucking be real. And quit being so fucking butthurt by critique. And quit living in fear of people like, oh, they don't like me because I said something negative. Because what that does, those same people who are fucking saying, oh, don't ever say anything negative or the guys won't like you, are the same motherfuckers who are sneaks. And lowlifes. And put on this public face of, I'm such a nice dude and I'm so supportive. but are really pieces of shit. I said I was coming. Not in that way.
I came!
Though lately I have had some dates.
I came!
Maybe I'll talk about that on Patreon. I'm 50. I'm divorced. I got the 2 fucking truly greatest kids that I've had a big part in all of that. And I still get to fucking date and get laid and live this life.
I came!
Pretty great. This has been Full Disclosure as I attempt to survive the storm. And so shall we all.